Once upon a time, far beyond our galaxy, in a strange, glowing world called Splizer, there lived a group of curious aliens. They were known as the Glumpians. Small, squishy, and green, Glumpians had 3 eyes, 2 tiny arms, and antennae that glowed when they were surprised. Their leader, Blorx the Wise, was always searching the universe for new things to study. One day, Blorx came across a planet that looked strange, almost blue. It was Earth. "Look at this planet," Blorx squeaked, pointing to the massive screen in the Glumpian spaceship, the galactic squish. "So much water. How can anything live here without drowning?" The other Glumpians gathered around the screen, their antennae flashing in excitement. "Maybe they're made of water," suggested Plib, the most nervous of the group. "Nonsense," replied Blorx. "They must have special powers to survive so much liquid. Let's watch them more closely." Blorx zoomed the screen in on Earth and adjusted the camera to focus on a bustling city. To the Glumpians' surprise, they saw humans walking, laughing, playing sports, and swimming as if the water around them didn't bother them at all. The aliens were in shock. "How could they be so brave?" gasped Floob, who was known for being both a prankster and a scaredy cat. "They're swimming in what would be our doom. If even one drop of water touched me, I'd faint." The Glumpians watched, stunned, as a scene unfolded at a public pool. Humans were splashing each other and diving into the water with joy. The aliens couldn't understand it. To them, water was a terrifying substance, capable of wiping out a Glumpian with a single touch. Blorx rubbed his chin with one of his stubby arms, thinking hard. "We need to investigate further. Let's send down a few Glumpian scouts in our cloaked mini-pods to study these humans and their water powers." The Glumpians aboard the galactic squish chittered with excitement. Floob, Plib, and a third Glumpian named Zorp, who was the bravest among them, volunteered for the mission. They prepared to travel down to Earth and secretly observe humans up close. Mission Earth, the water park adventure. The Glumpians disguised their mini-pods with invisibility shields and quietly landed in a place called Aqua Splash Water Park. The aliens peered out of their pods, watching in awe as humans of all ages ran around in swimsuits, laughing and splashing water at each other. "What strange creatures," whispered Floob, shivering in fear as a child sprayed water from a toy gun. "Look at that one," said Zorp, pointing to a human standing under a huge bucket suspended high above. Suddenly, the bucket tipped over, and a torrent of water came crashing down on the human. To the Glumpians' horror, the human only laughed harder. "They're not afraid," squeaked Plib. His antennae were blinking red from terror. "They're actually enjoying it." Zorp, however, was fascinated. "Maybe water isn't deadly to them like it is to us," he said thoughtfully. "Maybe humans have some secret technique for surviving these deadly water bombs." Floob shook his head. "It's impossible. No one can survive that much water." Just then, Floob felt a tiny sprinkle of water splash onto his pod from a nearby human who was jumping into the pool. Floob screeched, scrambling to the back of the pod as if his life depended on it. Zorp rolled his eyes, but he was a little worried too. "Perhaps we should do a test," Zorp suggested. "Let's capture some water samples and analyze them." With trembling hands, Floob extended a small tube from their pod and captured a droplet of pool water. They analyzed it in their tiny onboard lab. "According to this analysis," Plib said, staring at the screen, "this water is the same as the water on Splizer. How are they surviving it?" The Glumpians were even more confused than before. But they weren't ready to give up. Zorp had an idea. "Why don't we create a water bomb, just like the humans, and try to observe their reactions closely?" The Glumpians decided to put their plan into action. They quickly created a large, wobbly water balloon and floated it over to a group of teenagers by the pool. With careful precision, they released it. The water balloon splashed down, covering the teens in a wave of water. But instead of crying out in terror, the teens burst into laughter, and one of them threw a water balloon right back. The aliens watched in utter disbelief. Humans had just been hit with a deadly water bomb, yet they seemed to be enjoying it even more. This is insanity," stammered Floob. "How do they withstand it?" Just then, one of the humans noticed the Glumpian's invisible pod. The child, a boy named Jake, walked closer and squinted. "Hey, what's that?" Jake asked, pointing at what he thought was an unusual shimmer in the air. Floob panicked and tried to fly the pod away, but Jake's curiosity was already piqued. The boy called his friends, and soon a group of kids surrounded the cloaked pod, trying to touch it. Zorp quickly activated the emergency defense mode. To the kids, it looked like a sparkly, glowing bubble floating around. "Wow! Is this some kind of new water toy?" one of the kids said, reaching out to touch the pod. Before the aliens knew it, they were being tossed, rolled, and spun in the air by the laughing kids, who thought it was just another water park attraction. "Stop! Stop!" yelled Plib, holding onto the controls for dear life. Finally, Floob managed to stabilize the pod, but before they could zoom off, one of the kids gave it a gentle poke. The pod tipped and splashed right into the pool. Water started to seep inside. Floob and Plib screamed in horror. "We're doomed. The deadly liquid is getting in," but to their amazement, nothing happened. The water didn't harm them. Instead, it just felt strange. The aliens looked at each other, confused. "Maybe water isn't deadly to us after all," Zorp said, surprised, learning the truth about water. After a few minutes, the aliens realized that the humans must have discovered something even the Glumpians didn't know. Water wasn't deadly, it was actually harmless and even fun. Floob still shuddered at the thought, but he reluctantly agreed to stay and watch the humans a little longer. The Glumpians began to explore other parts of the water park, watching humans slide down tall, twisting slides, shoot water from fountains, and even jump from diving boards. Soon they even tried splashing a little water on themselves. At first, Floob screeched and flailed, but then he relaxed. "Hey, this isn't so bad," he admitted. Over time, the Glumpians discovered that water could be refreshing and fun. They even joined in a bit, floating their cloaked pod through the lazy river and dodging water balloons from kids who couldn't see them. Back on Splizer, the Glumpians held a grand demonstration. Blorks, Floob, Plib, and Zorp showed their fellow Glumpians how to handle water without fear. They even set up their own water park, calling it Splash-O-Rama. And as for the humans? They never knew they'd inspired an entire alien species to embrace something they'd once dreaded. But somewhere, perhaps in a distant galaxy, tiny green aliens were diving into pools, splashing each other, and laughing just like humans do. And that's how a group of squishy, green aliens learned the joy of water, thanks to the fearless, water-loving humans on planet Earth.